Welcome in, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is just going to be a very brief topic that I wanted to cover. It's getting a lot of discussion on Twitter and in the blogs and pretty much all over the Notre Dame community. And it's ramping up every day that Marcus Freeman continues to recruit at a level we're not used to seeing at Notre Dame. So before we get into it, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. I do appreciate it. If you like the information, give it the video a thumbs up when it's over. Twitter, find me, type always Irish in the search bar or at JKZND4. Merchandise link can be located below in the description. Audio only, get me everywhere you want me. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Hit me up, okay? So let's get into this. Lately, I've been saying I am fully on board and comfortable with Marcus Freeman as Notre Dame's next head coach. I am fully on that bandwagon. I am comfortable being on that bandwagon. I want Notre Dame to do something they haven't yet done, because the way we've been doing it has resulted in nothing that matters in 30 years. I am ready for a new approach, okay? So there's one thing that comes up in this discussion that I think to an extent is a fair concern about the idea of Marcus Freeman sliding into Brian Kelly's seat whenever he calls it quits, all right? Now, one thing we need to establish before I get into this is let's not go down the path of what if he leaves in a year or 2 years. Let's put that aside. We all know that's a realistic possibility. Our last two defense coordinators got poached. We know that's a possibility. So that's a different discussion. I've already gone over how to prevent that. Once people start knocking at the door for him, you start throwing more millions of dollars at him. That's what you do. You throw millions of dollars at him and tell him when Kelly's done, this is your baby to run with. Don't tell me Notre Dame doesn't have the money to do it. Don't tell me that, because I know it ain't true and I don't believe it. So spare me the financial argument. Notre Dame's doing just fine monetarily, okay? So let's put that aside. Here's what's come up. He hasn't been a head coach before, and that scares some people around the program. Is this a fair concern? Well, yes, it's a fair concern. Clearly, you'd like a guy that everybody wants, that's a hot name, won a bunch of titles, and wants to come to Notre Dame. That's an ideal situation. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. Dabo ain't coming here. Saban ain't coming here. Urban Meyer's in the NFL. So who are these guys with championship-winning head coach experience banging down the door to get into Notre Dame? Where are they? Who are they? Tell me those names, because the ones I mentioned are the ones everybody wants, and they're not coming. They're either not interested, they're in trench places where it's easier to win big already. They're not coming to Notre Dame for various reasons. So should this lack of head coaching experience scare Notre Dame away? I actually think it might be the exact opposite. Snag him up before it's too late. This is just like the stock market to me. You didn't want to be the fool jumping in on GameStop when it was approaching $400. You don't want to be that guy. You want to jump in at GameStop when, preferably, before it even peaked or at the very beginning of when it started to take off at 10 or 20 bucks. You don't want to jump in late when it's $3.75. You're left holding the bag. Okay? So, fortune favors the bold sometimes. People want head coaching. And here's the thing. People want head coaching experience at Notre Dame. But to me, I want head coaching and winning experience. Those are different. I'm not just going to be happy with anybody who's been a head coach before. I need you to win some shit that matters and be a head coach and then want to come to Notre Dame. Those are different. Just having experience doesn't mean you're great. It just means you've been around a while. Those are different things. So if you want a head coach experience guy, I also need him to be a big-time winner. Doesn't impress me if you just gotten a bunch of jobs but haven't won anything. Big deal. Big deal. Okay? Fortune favors the bold sometimes. All right? People want this head coaching experience. Look at Notre Dame's recent history. You had Davey handed the job because he was Lou's buddy. You had Tyrone, who had experience but was allergic to recruiting. Did that make people happy because he had experience? The guy was allergic to recruiting. And he had a magnet tied to his golf clubs, which I could appreciate for anybody other than the Notre Dame coach I need to recruit. I'm fine with anybody else not working to play golf all day except for this guy. So you had Tyrone. He had experience and sucked. Then you had Charlie Weiss. He was under Belichick, and then they blew him up and brought his big ass in here, and he sucked. So Brian Kelly has over 40 years of experience. He doesn't suck, but can't get over the hump either after 11 years. So where exactly is the proof to me that at Notre Dame you need head coaching experience to do well? We've had a mixed bag of a bunch of different guys since Lou won a title. None of them have come close to getting over the hump. You could argue Kelly's gotten close because he's been in a championship game and 2 playoff experiences. But how did they go? How did they go? All of those games were non-competitive embarrassments. So I credit Kelly to a certain extent for getting us there, which is a higher ceiling than the other guys I mentioned did, Weiss, Ty, Davey. But at the same time, he hasn't figured out how to get over the hump either. So I'm not sure why so many people are married to the idea the guy's got to have all this head coaching experience. I just don't see it that way. Okay? I think that's an old head Notre Dame comfort thing to me. They want the CEO guy that's polished to go pitch to the donors and know how to massage a press conference, and like this old dignitary type of position guy is the feel to me, and I'm over it. Fortune favors the bold. Here's why I'm not scared of hiring Marcus Freeman without head coaching experience. Number one, he's been around winning programs. As a player with Ohio State, winning program, he knows what that takes and what that looks like. Number 2 reason, he's learning what it's like at Notre Dame day to day now. This is a huge factor, you guys. Think about it. I would be more nervous if a guy who's a great recruiter somewhere else then gets the Notre Dame head coaching job, gets into Notre Dame, and then realizes, crap, they're not going to let me recruit these guys I was recruiting wherever I was before. That's a big problem. That would be a big problem. Marcus Freeman doesn't have that problem. He's at Notre Dame now. So he's going to know in a year or two everything that's involved with Notre Dame. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the unique challenges, all of that. He's not coming in cold to Notre Dame. He will already know everything you need to know. That's a huge difference than bringing a guy in who wasn't at Notre Dame ever and then has to learn on the fly as a first-time head coach. This is a softer landing, already being in the program, then sliding into the head chair. Totally different. Big point to me. That's a big deal to me. Number 3, his communication skills are exceptional, both with his players and to the media. We already mentioned That's a priority to Notre Dame. It's a big deal to Notre Dame that the head football coach knows how to handle the media, press conferences, obligations at speaking engagements, all this kind of stuff. His communication skills are exceptional. Number 4, his rapport with players is off the charts. You look at the videos of him working with the Cincinnati defense. I love everything about the way he interacts with his players. Absolutely love it. Exactly what I want. Okay. Here's number 5. Recruiting. He has not even been at Notre Dame 2 months, and he's unlocking recruiting potential none of us even knew where it was allowed or available. So it's amazing. Marcus Freeman's offering guys that are out of our league we thought we had no chance with. He's getting guys committed other places to back down. Think about Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is recruiting in a way I have not seen anybody recruit in my lifetime at Notre Dame. You might be able to argue to me Charlie Weiss's one great class that was like literally in the top 5 with Manti Te'o. You might be able to argue to me that just because that class legitimately ended in the top 5 that year, the Te'o year. But the way Marcus Freeman's recruiting, it's a new world at Notre Dame. It's a new world, and it's good and it's bad. I love to see what he's doing, but I'm frustrated that nobody else did it. Notre Dame had people thinking it wasn't possible to recruit this way. This guy comes in, works his ass off, banging down doors and getting results. So it's great to see that this is going on and it's helping us. It's a little scary to me that nobody else was doing it before this guy. It starts making you think there's a cap on what it could be. He's showing you maybe there isn't. So with those 5 factors, be bold. If he continues to recruit this way and the defense plays well under him, build the framework for a head coaching deal ahead of time. The way Notre Dame's been doing things has not worked in over 30 years. So somebody has to tell me why we need to stick to that format when it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. So why should anybody feel like we gotta keep going down that path when it hasn't worked? What's the worst case outcome with Marcus Freeman as head coach? We win nothing, just like the last 30 years? Is that the worst? Literally, the worst he could do is to put nothing in the trophy case, just like everybody we've had since Lou. So, to me, roll the dice. Get ahead of the curve. Buy the stock before it explodes. I want us to be in that position for once, to land that guy. And you're in the catbird seat because he's already in your building. He's already in your building. That's the biggest advantage to this entire scenario. He's there. So yeah, he wouldn't have head coaching experience, but he's not coming to Notre Dame cold to how it is at Notre Dame either. That would scare me. That would scare me with an outsider who hasn't had the experience. But him being in-house, he's got a good couple years here to learn everything he needs to know about how this goes at Notre Dame and what it's like to be the head coach and what it's like to recruit, what it's like to deal with academics, all the unique stuff at Notre Dame. It ain't going to be new to him. So, to me, get modern, get ahead of something for once, roll the dice, change the whole vibe and energy of the Notre Dame program. Make it to where you're young, hip, modern. This guy can relate to all these young players. They love balling out for him. I love it. Here's the other thing. And this is what I like the most. If you made Marcus Freeman the head coach, I would hope that to him, a big priority number one would be, I'm filling out my staff with people that recruit the way I do. That's the number one thing. Marcus Freeman ain't going to want to be the head coach, and he's the only one on the staff that recruits his ass off the way he is. So you make him the head coach, it's going to become a prerequisite that everybody else works as hard as he does on the recruiting trail. Even if they don't get the results he gets, because he's naturally better at it, more gifted at it, the effort has to be there, okay? So I am all for doing something different. The old way has not worked. Try something new. If the guy recruits as well as he already is, it's very unlikely the whole program's going to crumble and we're going to go 3-9 every year. The guy's going to be bringing in great talent. That makes his job easier adjusting as a head coach. So I just think we as Notre Dame people need to get over that experienced head coach thing, unless it's a guy with experience that won championships and wants to come here. I got news for you. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. So instead of some retread or some old guy or whatever, roll your dice on this hot young guy that recruits his ass off every single day. I'm telling you, it would change everything. I'm telling you, I feel it. It would change the vibe of the whole program. Notre Dame would have that mystique, the history, the tradition, all of that, and also be hip, modern, a place guys want to go, a coach they can relate to on a more personal level because they're closer in age, and just the way he deals with players. I love it. I love it. So this would be my plan. I'm telling you, I'm going to be totally livid and devastated if Notre Dame lets this guy leave in 1 or 2 years. I am absolutely going to lose it. I think we have put ourselves in a position to find the next hot guy, and I am not going to react well if they let that go away, and I got to sit through the last 2 years of the Kelly era not winning anything. Then we have to start from scratch finding a new coach. Not interested. Not interested. Okay? Fortune favors the bold sometimes. Get ahead of this and invest in the stock so when it pops and explodes, it's in our benefit. That's what I want to see. I love this guy. I got a feeling about this guy. He's already proving he's cut differently than everybody else coaching in Notre Dame now. He's already proven it by his vigor on the recruiting trail. I love it. I want that energy permeated through the whole program under his relentless, aggressive leadership. Get it done. This is the future, and I think it could be something different and different results than we've gotten for 3 straight decades. Get it done.